I still remember the first time I stepped into this kitchen as a young bride, more than 30 years ago. The walls were bare then, the shelves half empty. But even in that emptiness I felt hope. I felt purpose. Because I knew that within these four walls I would build something sacred. A home filled with warmth, laughter, and the kind of love that can only be tasted. They say a mother's love lives in her hands. And for me, those hands found their voice in the kitchen. Every morning before the sun kissed the rooftops, I would rise. The house would still be asleep, silent, peaceful. I'd tie my dupatta around my waist, light the stove and let the flames dance beneath my pots. The sizzle of cumin seeds in hot oil, the earthy scent of turmeric and coriander, the slow simmer of lentils turning golden and soft. These were my prayers, my offerings. I learned to cook from my mother and she from hers. Each recipe carried a story. Each spice held a memory. When I stirred the pot, I wasn't just making food. I was weaving generations together. My mother-in-law's biryani, my grandmother's halwa, my own secret blend of garam masala that made my husband smile after the longest days. And my son Ali. Oh, my Ali. He was my firstborn, my miracle, the boy who made me a mother. From the time he could sit up in his high chair, he would watch me cook with wide, curious eyes. As he grew, he became my little kitchen companion. He'd sneak bites of dough, lick the spoon when I wasn't looking, and ask 100 questions about why onions made people cry. "Amy," he'd say, "your food is magic." And I'd laugh. But deep down I believed him. Because food is magic. It's the kind that doesn't need words. Says asterisk I love you. I see you. You matter. Asterisk. Even after Ollie grew up, graduated, started working, he never stopped loving my cooking. No matter how tired he was, no matter how late he came home, he'd always walk into the kitchen, lift the lid off the pot and inhale deeply. "Amy," he'd say with that boyish grin, "no restaurant in the world can compete with you." Those words, they filled my heart every single time. And then he got married. Her name was Sarah. I won't lie, I was nervous. Excited but nervous. Bringing a new daughter into the home is like planting a sapling. You water it with love, patience, and trust, hoping it will grow strong and bloom beautifully. I wanted Sarah to feel welcomed. I wanted her to feel like this was her home too. The wedding was grand. Sarah looked stunning in her red lehenga, her smile bright and confident. She was modern, educated, well-spoken. Ali adored her. And I was ready to adore her too. On her first morning in our home, I woke up early as always. I wanted to make something special for her. Something warm and comforting. I made sheer kurma, a traditional sweet dish we serve to guests and loved ones. It's made with vermicelli, milk, dates, and cardamom. Takes time. Takes care. When Sarah came down to the dining table, I served her a bowl with a smile. "Welcome home, Beatty," I said softly. She looked at the bowl, then at me, and then she smiled politely. "Thank you, Amy John. But I don't really eat sweets for breakfast. Do you have something lighter? Maybe oats or a smoothie?" I blinked. Oats? Smoothie? I didn't even know how to make those things. But I nodded. "Of course, Beta. I'll make you some toast." Ollie laughed it off. "She's health conscious, Amy. That's a good thing." I smiled. But something small shifted inside me that morning. Something I couldn't name yet. Still, I told myself she's adjusting. She's young. Give her time. So I did. In the weeks that followed, I continued cooking the way I always had. Parathas for breakfast. Rice and curry for lunch. Biryani on Fridays. Halim on special evenings. The kitchen smelled the way it always had, rich, layered, alive. But Sarah never ate much. She'd take a small portion, move it around her plate, and then quietly excuse herself. Or she'd say, "I'm not very hungry, Amy John. But thank you." At first I thought maybe she just had a small appetite. But then I started noticing other things. She'd scroll through her phone at the table, looking at pictures of salads and smoothie bowls. She'd talk to Ollie about clean eating and balanced macros. Words I didn't understand. Concepts that felt foreign in a home where food had always meant abundance, tradition, love. One evening I made nahari, a slow-cooked meat stew that takes hours to prepare. It's a dish my husband loved. A dish Ollie requested on every birthday. I spent the entire afternoon standing by the stove, stirring, tasting, adjusting. When I served it that night, Ali's eyes lit up. "Amy, this smells incredible." But Sarah wrinkled her nose. "Is that bone marrow?" she asked. "Yes, Beta," I said gently. "It's what makes the dish rich." She pushed her plate away. "I can't eat that. It's too heavy. And honestly, it's not very hygienic." The room went silent. Ali looked uncomfortable. I stood there, ladle in hand, unsure of what to say. "Sarah," Ali said quietly, "Amy made this specially." "I know," she interrupted. "And I appreciate it. But we can't keep eating like this, Ali. It's not healthy." She turned to me with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "No offense, Amy John. I'm sure it tastes great. It's just not for me." I nodded, smiled, and went back to the kitchen. But inside my chest felt tight. Not hygienic. I had cooked in this kitchen for 3 decades. I had fed my husband, my children, my in-laws, my neighbors. I had poured love into every meal. Now, I was being told it wasn't good enough? I didn't say anything. I never did. Because that's what mothers-in-law are taught, isn't it? To adjust. To accommodate. To stay silent even when your heart is breaking. So I stayed silent. But the cracks, they had already begun to form. Over the next few weeks, things began to change in ways I hadn't expected. Sarah started taking over. Not in a loud, aggressive way. No. It was subtle. Gradual. Like the slow creep of winter fog. She'd suggest new furniture. Modern curtains. Minimalist decor. She'd say things like, "This house has so much potential, Amy John. We should really update it." Update it? This was the house I had built with my husband. Every corner had a memory. Every piece of furniture had a story. But Ollie seemed excited. "She has great taste, Amy. Let's try some new things." And so, piece by piece, my home began to look different. The old wooden dining table, the one where we'd celebrated every birthday, every Eid, was replaced with a sleek glass one. The embroidered cushions my mother had made were swapped for plain beige ones. The family photos on the wall were taken down and replaced with abstract art. I said nothing. But the kitchen, that was where it hurt the most. One morning, I came downstairs to find Sarah rearranging the cabinets. "What are you doing, Beta?" I asked, confused. "Oh, Amy John. I'm just organizing. You have so many jars and spices. It's hard to find anything. I'm putting them in labeled containers. It'll be much more efficient." Efficient? I stared at my spice jars, the ones I'd been using for years. Each one had its place. I knew where everything was by heart. But now they were being relocated. Labeled in English. Stored in clear plastic boxes. I liked them the way they were," I said softly. Sarah smiled. "Trust me, Amy John. You'll love this." But I didn't. Because it wasn't about efficiency. It was about control. She was taking over my kitchen. The one place that had always been mine. And slowly I started to feel like a guest in my own home. Then came the meals. Sarah decided she would start cooking. "Amy John, you've been cooking for so many years. You deserve a break," she said one morning. "Let me take over for a while." Sounded kind, thoughtful even. But I knew better. Because the meals she made were nothing like what this house had ever known. Quinoa salads. Grilled chicken with no spices. Steamed vegetables with olive oil. Smoothies for breakfast. Protein bars for snacks. Ollie tried to be supportive. "It's healthy, Amy." And Sarah worked really hard on this. But I could see it in his eyes. The disappointment. The longing. He'd finish his plate, but he was never satisfied. He'd wander into the kitchen later, opening the fridge, looking for something. Anything. One night he came to me quietly. "Amy, do you have any leftovers? Maybe some chicken curry." My heart ached. But I shook my head. "Sarah made dinner, Beta. I didn't cook today." He nodded. And walked away hungry. That's when I realized, this wasn't just about food anymore. It was about erasing me. Sarah wanted to be the woman of the house. And in her mind that meant I had to step aside. But I had given my whole life to this home. I had nurtured it. Loved it. Built it with my own 2 hands. And I wasn't ready to disappear. Not yet. The breaking point came on a quiet Thursday afternoon. I had woken up that morning with a strange heaviness in my chest. Maybe it was intuition. Maybe it was just exhaustion. But I decided to do something I hadn't done in weeks. I decided to cook. Not for anyone's approval. Not to prove anything. Just because I wanted to. I made kofta curry, tender meatballs simmered in a rich spice gravy. It was Ali's childhood favorite. The dish he'd request whenever he was sad, tired, or homesick. I spent hours on it. Grinding the meat by hand. Shaping each kofta with care. Letting the curry simmer low and slow until the oil glistened on the surface like liquid gold. The kitchen smelled like home again. When it was done, I covered the pot and set it on the counter to cool. I planned to serve it for dinner, a surprise for Ali. I went upstairs to rest. But when I came back down an hour later, the kitchen was empty. The pot was gone. My heart started racing. I looked around, checked the stove, opened the fridge. Nothing. And then I saw it. The trash bin. I walked over slowly, lifted the lid, and there it was. My kofta curry. All of it. Dumped into the garbage. The meatballs broken apart. The gravy splattered across banana peels and crumpled tissues. My hands started trembling. I heard footsteps behind me. Sarah walked in, wiping her hands on a towel. "Oh, Emmy John. You're back." I turned to her, my voice barely a whisper. What did you do?" She looked at the trash, then at me, and shrugged. "I threw it out. It was sitting on the counter for too long. And honestly, it looked really oily. I didn't think it was safe to eat." Safe? I had been cooking that dish for 30 years. I had served it to my husband, my children, my guests. And now it was unsafe? You should have asked me," I said, my voice shaking. "I didn't want to bother you," she said casually. "Besides, I already made dinner. Grilled fish and steamed broccoli. Much healthier." She smiled and walked away. I stood there staring at the trash bin. My love, my effort, my memories, all thrown away like garbage. That's when something inside me broke. Not with anger, not with tears, but with clarity. I realized that no matter how much I adjusted, no matter how much I stayed silent, it would never be enough for her. Because she didn't just want to change the house. She wanted to erase me from it. And I couldn't let that happen. That night I didn't cry. I didn't confront her. I didn't complain to Ali. Instead, I made a decision. If Sarah wanted to take over the kitchen, fine. I would let her. But I would no longer offer my help, my guidance, my love. I would step back. Quietly. Completely. And I would let her learn the hard way what it truly means to run a home. The next morning, Sarah came downstairs, expecting me to be in the kitchen as usual. But I wasn't. I was sitting in the living room reading a book. "Emmy John," she called out. "Are you not making breakfast?" I looked up and smiled calmly. "No, Beta. You said you wanted to take over the cooking. So I thought I'd give you space." She blinked. "Oh, okay." She made toast. Plain dry toast. Ali ate it without a word. At lunch she made a salad. Ali ate half and left the rest. At dinner she grilled chicken. Again. Ali didn't finish his plate. But I said nothing. I didn't interfere. I didn't offer advice. I just watched. And slowly, I began to see the cracks in her confidence. Because cooking isn't just about following recipes. It's about intuition, rhythm, love, and those things. They can't be learned from an app or a YouTube video. They take years. Patience. Heart. Sarah didn't have that. Not yet. And soon everyone would see it. A week later, Sarah announced that she wanted to host a dinner party. "I want to invite Ali's colleagues and their wives," she said excitedly. "I'll cook everything myself. It'll be perfect." Ali looked nervous. "Are you sure, Sarah? That's a lot of work." "I've got this," she said confidently. "Trust me." I stayed silent. But inside I knew. This was going to be the moment. The night of the dinner party arrived. Sarah spent the entire afternoon in the kitchen, her phone propped up on the counter, following recipe videos step by step. She made quinoa salad, grilled chicken breast, roasted vegetables, a fruit platter. Everything looked clean, neat, presentable. But when I walked past the kitchen, I noticed something. There was no aroma, no warmth, no depth, no soul. The guests arrived at 7. Ali greeted them with his usual charm. Sarah played the perfect hostess, smiling, chatting, serving drinks. And then came dinner. Everyone sat down. The table looked beautiful, modern, elegant, minimalistic. But when they started eating, I saw it. The polite smiles. The slow chewing. The quick glances exchanged between the wives. One of the women took a small bite of the chicken and reached for her water immediately. Another pushed the quinoa around her plate, pretending to eat. Ali's colleague, a jovial man named Tariq, tried to be kind. This is a very healthy, Sarah. Very clean. But his plate was still full. Sarah noticed. I could see the panic creeping into her eyes. Is everything okay? She asked, her voice a little too bright. Oh yes, one of the wives said quickly. It's lovely. Just very light. Light. That was the polite word. What they meant was tasteless. The dinner limped along. People made small talk. But the food was barely touched. And then, halfway through the meal, Tariq's wife leaned over to him and whispered, but not quietly enough. I'm starving. Let's get biryani on the way home. Sarah heard it. I saw her face fall. Ali looked uncomfortable. He tried to salvage the situation, but the damage was done. After the guests left, the house was silent. Sarah stood in the kitchen, staring at the full plates of leftover food. Ali walked in, loosening his tie. He looked tired, frustrated. Sarah, he began. Don't, she said quickly. I know. It didn't go well. He sighed. It's not your fault. You tried. But trying isn't enough when you're feeding people you care about. He paused. Then, almost hesitantly, he looked at me. Amy, is there anything left from yesterday? Maybe some rice? Or chicken? My heart broke a little. But I nodded. I went to the fridge and pulled out a small container of chicken karahi I had made for myself the day before. Just a little. Just enough. I heated it up. Served it with fresh naan. Ali sat down and took his first bite. And then he closed his eyes. This, he whispered. This is what I needed. Sarah watched from the doorway. Her face was unreadable. But I knew. She finally understood. The next few days were tense. Sarah stopped cooking. She stopped rearranging. She stopped talking much at all. She'd sit in the living room, scrolling through her phone, her face clouded with frustration. I didn't gloat. I didn't lecture. I just continued my life as I always had. And then one evening Sarah came to me. I was sitting in my room embroidering a pillowcase, something I did to calm my mind. She stood at the door, hesitant. Amy John, can I talk to you? I looked up. Of course, Beta. Come in. She sat down on the edge of the bed, her hands folded in her lap. For a long moment she didn't say anything. And then quietly she spoke. I threw away your food. I stayed silent. I thought I was helping. I thought I was making things better. Healthier. Modern. Her voice cracked. But I wasn't, was I? I set down my embroidery. Why did you throw it away, Sarah? She looked down. Because I felt threatened. Those words hung in the air. I felt like no matter what I did, I could never compete with you. Ali loved your food. Everyone did. And I wanted to be the one he turned to. I wanted to matter. Her honesty surprised me. I reached over and took her hand. You do matter, Beta. But not because you replace me. You matter because you're his partner. His companion. His equal. She looked up, her eyes wet. I don't know how to cook like you, Amy John. I don't know how to make people feel the way you do. I smiled softly. That's because cooking isn't just about recipes, Sarah. It's about love. It's about knowing the people you're feeding, what they need, what comforts them. She wiped her eyes. Can you teach me? I paused, then nodded. Yes, but only if you're ready to learn. Not from a screen, from the heart. She nodded. I am. I promise. The next morning I woke up early as always. But this time I wasn't alone. Sarah was already in the kitchen, tying her hair back, her sleeves rolled up. I'm ready, Amy John, she said softly. I smiled. And so we began. I taught her how to temper spices, how to taste as you go, how to feel the dough and know when it's just right. I told her stories as we cooked, stories of my mother, My grandmother. The women who had passed down these recipes like heirlooms. She listened, really listened, and slowly something beautiful began to happen. She stopped trying to be me. And she started becoming herself, but with respect for what came before her. One evening, she made a lougasht on her own. I guided her, but I didn't take over. When Ollie came home and tasted it, his face lit up. Sarah, this is amazing. She looked at me, her eyes shining. And I nodded, proud. Weeks passed. Then months. The house smelled like home again. But this time it was a blend. Sarah's modern touch and my traditional heart, coexisting. She'd make her quinoa bowls for lunch. I'd make biryani for dinner. And we'd laugh about it. Ollie was the happiest I'd seen him in months. One Friday evening, as we all sat together at the dinner table, the old wooden one Sarah had quietly brought back from storage, I looked around. At my son. At my daughter-in-law. At the plates full of food made with care. And I realized something. This was never about winning or losing. It was about understanding. Respect isn't demanded. It's earned. And it's given. Sarah had learned that food is love. And I had learned that love makes room for change. She reached over and squeezed my hand under the table. Thank you, Emmy John, she whispered. I squeezed back. No words needed. Because sometimes the sweetest lessons are served without a word. Only with a taste.